welcome to the Madison County Public Library, and for those I saw yesterday, welcome back. Tonight we have 5 poets that brought themselves together for this compilation, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves individually. Most people know everyone, but I do want to read the book's foreword from Bell Hooks, and it is elegantly exploring the tension between the mystical and the practical, the imaginative space between contradictions. The poems in this collection, Balance of 5, are a collective meditation.
Wanted to thank the library and especially Athena for having us here this evening, but even more than that, for all of you for coming out to the program. We had an early idea to get together and do a book together, really inspired by a chapbook contest that people submitted chapbooks and then they put them into one poetry book. And so that was our original thought, was just to have 5 separate sections about the same length. But then, as we started looking at each other's poems, we saw a lot of similarities and differences, but a lot of ways in which the poems related to one another. So we decided to go on a very difficult route of trying to balance these poems into a pattern. So the first section that we're going to read to you is, the poems are all from the first part of the book, so you get some idea of the kinds of connections that we're making, either of theme or ideas. And then the second is going to be our own individual balance of poems. So the flow of one poem to another, and kind of a taste of this and that. The first section we saw as following the theme of journeys, whether interior or exterior journeys. And so, and I can introduce, I guess, everybody, if I don't forget their names in front of the audience, right? Libby Jones, Vicky Hayes, Tina Parker, Dorothy Schnare, and I'm Barbara Wade.
I think I have the first poem. The title is Body. A woman is a body of water. When she moves, the lake shimmers. The breast floats and bobs on the surface. The moon feels and strains to get out. The child inside will displace her. Still waters catch the shadows of leaves and the faces of lovers.
While Vicky's poem was an interior journey, mine is an exterior journey. We visited some friends in Northern California and went on a rafting trip down the Trinity River. Rafting the Trinity. We rafted down the Trinity one simmering summer day, little Rio at the bow clinging to a rope, hollering with glee and a hint of fear as rapids splashed cold silver. Sprawled against Oma Jeannie's wombing lap, baby Tikwa, at rest in the rollicking waves, fell fast asleep, shaded with father's straw Stetson, deaf to brother's shrill squeaks. Great blue heron murk piloted us downstream, settling on a bank or perching on a willow limb until we neared again, then rose up, glided onward. On forested banks, Indian rhubarb grew. Delicate pink flowers clustered above scalloped, umbrella-sized leaves. Beaver-chewed branches formed dens over muddy banks. Dense shade of an alder disguised a black bear cub. As we back-paddled to catch a clearer glimpse, it scrambled up a steep slope into golden grasses. Once, when a rogue wave engulfed Rio's head, he sputtered, started to wail, but cheers to his bravery and whoops of excitement turned tragedy to treasure, swelled his small chest. 4 hats we rescued that afternoon, 3 ball caps that zipped off heads to float bills up for easy grabbing, and the Stetson, whisked into a whirlpool, plunged 15 feet deep in crystal waters, popped out 100 yards downstream. When the companion raft faltered against gusty afternoon headwinds, Captain Josh waded in an eddy, lashed bow to stern to make a train, oared us all through wind and wave, past the Hoopa Reservation's bingo hall and grocery store, to beach on grass and gravel.
So Barbara's poem took us into a very physical, challenging journey, one that often a woman doesn't really make. And my poem, which follows her, picks up on that idea of a physical journey, but that in the context of developing a very personal relationship. The poem, like Barbara's, comes from my experience. One October, my husband Roger was down in Louisiana visiting his mother. I was here in Kentucky, and I decided to run a little foot race over a little 5K over in Paint Lick, Kentucky. The date was October the 10th, which is my older son's birthday. He is also a runner. And as it happened, the title of this race in Paint Lick was Run for the Sun, S-O-N. Now, I think they didn't mean my son, but I meant my son. So my poem is called Racing on My Son's 23rd Birthday. I run this mild October day for you, my lovely, lanky child, a race through moving fluids. Along the dripping road, mums flower in fresh dirt, cows cluster at fences, the Paint Lick fire engine paces me. My headband a sponge overflowing, I think I can't get wetter than a puddle floods my socks. Breathe out, push out, regular the waves, the finish line in sight. 18 seconds more, then 18 minutes past, you now the prime number that sprang from my body, warmth into air and doctor's arms. At the station house, my shoes squish. I gulp cool water, fold the new t-shirt into a plastic bag, phone your father, hear tears clog his voice.
Libby's poem is in the heart of motherhood. This one goes back, and the girl's kind of right on the brink of becoming more than a little girl. And so the poem is dedicated to my first crush, who I was very lucky, and my parents were as well. He was part of the Southern Baptist Youth Group. So it was all very naive and super sweet. Yes. It's called The Summer I Turned 13. The summer I turned 13, we were 2 kids zigzagging our way to a roller coaster ride. I knew it could happen at any time, had already happened to some of the others. You were big brother safe, and you knew things, I could tell. I was not scared that day. There was no crowd to lose me in. Still, you slowed to let me catch up, and you took my hand. I would never turn back. I would not want to. Though the girl with the pigtails waves from time to time, a tiny speck at the end of the line.
my poems appear as prose poems on the page. And I should say that. And this is a poem from my husband. We always joke that if we'd met each other when we were children, we wouldn't have been lonely then either. So it's called Photograph, Boy in a Field. Evening is coming on. A behemoth cloud covers the sun, and all the gold stops singing in the air. The insects grow louder. And then mercy from the southeast. The boy lifts his head, and one round raindrop plops onto his eyelid. A second beads at the dust in his feet. Another strikes the woolly head of the goldenrod. He was hiding in the field for a long time, and there were no cars on the road. There were none expected, but there was a breeze coming, and I wanted him to turn toward me, to look at me.
Please excuse my voice or lack thereof. I got back to Kentucky recently and have been fighting allergies abysmally. So Barbara's going to finish the poem if I don't make it, but I hope I can make it. This is a literal journey. It takes place in Ireland. It's called After the Pub Crawl. It starts in front of a statue of James Joyce in Dublin. It ends back in the United States. I think you will recognize all the place names. The places will be familiar to you. I used one Gaelic word. It's pronounced crack. It's at the very end. It's spelled C-R-A-I-C, but pronounced crack. And it means fun or entertainment. After the pub crawl, on North Earl Street, a little less than dapper, Joyce leans on his cane. We'll sit at his feet, rub his elbow for inspiration. Note his bed books table at Sandy Cove in a Martello tower. Stop at the Rock of Cashel, once Munster King's stronghold, later a cathedral, now bare ruined choirs. New powers that be think of roofing it. Get to Tipperary before they ruin a good ruin. In Cork, learn Irish dancing, spinning and reeling. Rediscover the foxtrot with a burly red-faced Liam. Irishmen love to charm Americans, especially ladies past a certain age. At Blarney Castle, no one ever mentions past fatalities. Held indecorously by the keeper, stand on your head to kiss that stone. Feeling more eloquent, at least you will have a tale to tell. Walk from Galway's Eyre Square to Town Hall to take in a play. Meet a young playwright who swears he never read Beckett. In Gaelic, in the dark, in the round, drink in his existentialism. Ferry to the Aran Islands, climb to Dunangus, ancient fort, flat on your belly, lean over the 300-foot sod-covered cliffs. Capture on film the black, frothy land outcroppings shaped like giant beasts. Back on firmer ground, find a stone beehive monk's hut to crawl through. Tarry a while. If you cannot pray, you need only breathe in and out to feel the infinite solitude resting there. Back at home, let a Galway swan emerge from your suitcase. Surely one of those 9 and 50 in the lagoon have come home with you. Perhaps 2, so wonderfully monogamous are they. Ireland's crack provides promising new passages, afloat again as a bright, bold teal, swimming into a new harbor every day. Fly off once more on giant white clouds. Always travel bird class. Now I'm supposed to introduce the next section to you, so let me take a breath and try to do that. Okay, so you heard about, the first part was balanced according to journeys, perhaps, that we took in or out of journeys. And now we've each chosen 2 poems to try to show some balance in our own work. And this could be done in a number of ways. Perhaps they are similar in form, in themes, in images. The style might be the same. The language might be the same, perhaps the symbols. I think that as we read these poems and clarify a little bit about how we see how they are balanced, you will probably learn a lot about, or I hope you will anyway, about our creative process, because that's kind of what came out to me. I think it was Libby who gave us this assignment about pairing 2 poems and then seeing the balance in them. Of course, that makes one see the dissimilarities as well and the imbalances as well. But nevertheless, it can give us quite a view into our own poetry, and I hope you will get an idea from what we read. Thank you.
The first one is titled Home Place. Below the spring, the still ran. At the crest of Snake Mountain, the last abandoned house stands. All of the photographs will speak to you. This is a black and white world. Some old man with his hands on the knees of his dirty breeches. Some weathered face held out to the camera. Unpainted wood, unadorned life, dirt for grass. Nothing where everything was. Silence now where there were ballads lifted up. No more plowed fields. We buried her on that place because that was the one thing she wanted in death. She said, if God ever sleeps, it's on the back of Snake Mountain. She said to plant her in the ground wrapped in a quilt on her bed, no coffin, lay her there where her blood can mix with the dirt in the moonshine. And this is a poem for a mother who is sending her daughter away to college. What is left? The moon is still burning like a lamp someone forgot to put out. It's becoming smaller, and now it's just half a slice of a round white loaf softening at the edges. It's what there is left. My neighbor came to cut the field, and it's like all the other fields now. Passers-by will say how well kept we are, what good stewards of the land. But I see that the summer is nearly lost. There's no more cornflowers to tug at my skirt, the purple tint of ironweed, the white Queen Anne's lace. The color is confined to the edges of the ragged garden. Bright beads of pear tomato, the pumpkins and the gourds swelling in the dried vines. Why didn't I water the last of it? There's just not enough time. And my daughter ripening. I stand in the bleached rows of corn. The new cut fields exhale the sweet, exotic fragrance of plants dying. It's not right that I must put the ragged wafer of the moon to my lips. It's not right that the fields are drying and the flowers are now confined to the embroidery on my dress. This is what I have left this morning. Already my mind is in that suitcase she is packing. Whatever will be I be allowed to keep.
The 2 poems that I picked come from the section in the book that we saw as woven around the idea of elegy or contemplating, reflecting on loss, expressing grief. There are 6 sections in the book, and we gave them Roman numerals. We decided, although we had an idea of what was kind of collecting that grouping, we decided not to label because that felt like a straitjacket that would dissolve the nuances that we hoped would come. So we hope that our little groupings would, in addition to help asking people to think about the relationship from one point to the next, would also ask people to think a little bit about what that whole cluster is revolving around. So my two poems are both kinds of elegy. The elegy is a kind of a category of poem, but it's not a form. That is, the poem could take any form, but it does explore the experience of or ideas of grief or loss. My poems also share a similarity in that one of them was evoked by the death of my husband's mother, my mother-in-law, and the other really was my loss of my own mother that I kind of had in mind. And there's some other differences too that I'll say a little bit about after I read the first poem. The first poem is dedicated to Cleo Portal Jones, 1922 to 2006. Its title is Lake Hiwassee in the Drought. Lake Hiwassee is in western North Carolina, and it's a place that my mother-in-law Cleo deeply loved and spent time there, and certainly one that in which her spirit was always strongly present. And in this particular summer, there was a record-breaking drought at the lake. So what happened was, through my experience of the physical environment, the physical environment served as a kind of meditation on the person who wasn't there. Lake Hiwassee in the drought. Our first summer without her, the water sank, beyond all imagining. So much red clay, the sky tinged pink. Boats beached on cracked ground. A million new rocks offered themselves to our feet. Geese swam in slow, tight circles. Clouds looked in vain for their reflections. All four little girls learned a new word, peninsula. Our first summer without her, we didn't bother to connect the phone. Instead of diving, we walked. We were grateful for the earth. And the second poem was written at a greater distance past the loss, and it's really a meditation about the experience of coping with loss. Whereas the first one was more experiencing the loss. This one is more coping with the loss, and in a way it's kind of an imperative, a directive to a person about how to deal with loss, and its title is Permission. You never don't need a mom. She slipped through the cracks. You lost what you lost. Mourn as long as you want. There's too much sad, the student said. When do we move on from sad? Entitled to sad, entitled to joy, as long as you want. The cat still wakes, paws your leg, icicles cling to a neighbor's roof, someone hammers, computer waits, screen dark. Nothing stopped but you. Only you can love the world you have. Only you can make the world you want. Let go the second and third thoughts. Swing into the rest area if you need a break, but get right back on that road of first.
Okay, I'm reading a couple of poems about motherhood. It follows well from that. And so we're talking about balance. I think motherhood threw me completely off balance. And that's, yeah, so writing my poetry helped to write that, and because I was constantly, and this is what my writing's about, is trying to reconcile a conflict of what you expect motherhood to be like and what it's really like. And so these two poems will speak to that. The first one is very much in this bubble of joy, and I call it like the early parenting vacuum. So there's, you have to picture the rocking glider and nursing a newborn. Her first year. In the early months, it is suckle and sleep, suckle and sleep. We tickle her feet to keep her awake, to be sure she has enough. At the half-year mark, it's suckle and play. She bobs on and off, so newly aware of her world, she must nurse in the dark on an island only we can rock to. Thank God her teeth come late. I hold her tight to fight the pain when she hooks them in, my blood on her lips. At 1 year, a final binge, like she knows it will end. She'll be okay, my husband pats her back. But it's me I worry about. It's my breasts, how they lump and leak and throb, and see how she laughs and plays and asks for her cup when I need her to remember my body and hers. Please tell me she will remember the days, the hours, the minutes I was enough. Well, I said that was on the joyful side, but then it's really sad. So I think what I wanted to talk about with balance was feeling absolute joy in the same moment that you can just feel this absolute horror. And so this next poem was the horror I found myself feeling. There's all this pressure, you only say certain things as a parent. So I would hear myself saying these things I should never say if you read all of the how-tos. So this is a one-sided conversation of what the mother says. And so you kind of have to picture this is the toddler world, and you have the toddler going, why? And asking things. And stop. No, we're not playing baby anymore. Get up. You can walk. Use big girl words. Sit down or you're not getting dessert. You have a napkin right there. Why are you wiping your mouth with your sleeve? Why are you doing that? Please let me eat. I need my arm and you're hanging on it. Stop kicking her. You're not going to bite your sister. We don't hit. I don't know why I plan things for you to do with your friends when you act like this. If you want to hear the song, stop talking. Leave her alone. Just close your mouth and be quiet. I'll tell you when to come out. I'm not ready to see you. We're going to turn that off in a minute. You have 5 more minutes. No, there are no more minutes. Come on, I'm leaving. Just a minute. Get your hands off me. I don't like the hitting hands. Use your words. No, I can't. You know how to put them on yourself. It makes my back hurt. Because I'm mean.
I have paired 2 laments, as Libby did, although they're not lamentations all the way through. I think they beat around the bush before they actually get to the point, but they are both laments. One is in dream time, an inner landscape, and one is in clock time, even cuckoo clock time, I guess is what you would call it. They both feature birds. I found out that this is a theme in my work I didn't really pay that much attention to, but there it is. So they both have birds as symbols, I guess I would call them, and They both have a story frame. The first one is based on myth, and the second one kind of uses the frame of a novel to kind of beat around the bush, I guess. Okay, so dreamscape. Clogs of pattern dancers repeat, repeat. Drums lackadaisical, beat, beat in muted trembles. A pack of wolves to the east. Count them, recount them. Dreams riddle in hieroglyphics, lyre, viper. Riding up over the hill, the light so light, the scene moss green, so fertile, so fathomable, you mount Elysian fields. You ache to believe the spur in his voice just behind you, but the promise will not last, sounds a gift of lucid dream. Next come the flapping wings of owls, a pair so suffused in dream warp, they could be discreet, yet they hoot a sound nouveau, dissemble a warning to slow down emotion. They seem to dread the revised myth in the sudden mist ahead. You really see in front of Orpheus, his breath hot, sweet, then a chill, a shiver, and you know not to stare in the rearview mirror. Keep your eyes dead on the road ahead. Race or forever lose his face. So that was a dream landscape lament, part of my widow's collection, I guess you could tell. The second poem that I'm going to read is in some ways lighter. It's called Bird Talk. It does have a little bad language in it, but that's because the parrots say it. Okay. Bird Talk. Grandmère had a bilingual parrot, a gift from her brother, a St. Lawrence Seaway captain. When anyone entered the room, the parrot shrieked, "Hello, bonjour, to hell with you, enfer, enfer." At the opening of Kate Chopin's The Awakening on Grand Isle, a green and yellow parrot, trilingual or better, knew a little Spanish, some French, some English, and a language nobody understood, except for the caged mockingbird in the main cottage. Trying to read his paper on the summer house porch, Mr. Pontellier heard, "Allez-vous-en, sapristi, that's all right," retreated to his own cottage, escaping such annoyance as was deemed his privilege. In the end, it was Edna, his wife, who took in that bird's message, its daring imperative. She swam free, far out to sea, embraced by the waves, naked, pregnant, awake at last. We have never owned a caged bird, but our cuckoo clock from the Black Forest has its say, though it never speaks German. When I told my husband that cuckoo cooed, love you, he smiled at me but disagreed. My son, the giver of the clock, inveighed, "It's just cuckoo, cuckoo." My daughter-in-law, Bianca, ever close to my heart, sided in with me. Then one morning at dawn, my husband, his brow furrowed, reported these sounds from the night. Trouble, trouble. I wish it were not so, but he had heard it right. Heaven was already in his wise hazel eyes. Oh, that he could rise up at the sound of a bird.
These are hard acts to follow. I chose two poems that were both about aging, the latter part of life. The first one is about one of the most difficult challenges, I think, which is as you get of a certain age and then you're taking care of aging parents who aren't doing really well. And that is both rewarding and heart-opening, but exhausting and difficult. And so this is a poem in which I use various body organs as metaphors for the neediness of the ill elderly person. It's called What She Needs. My heart to pulse iron energy. My stomach to digest denial. My liver to filter toxic anger. My gallbladder to soften globules of fear. My tongue to will her hope. Her neediness nestles in the folds of my brain as I place my spent adrenals on the altar of her bedside table. Well, I thought of balance not only in terms of theme, but I also thought of it as balancing light and dark, joy, sorrow. So the next poem is about aging also, but it has a lighter tone. It's called The True Sting. Despite what graybeard sages sing, woman's loss of allure, a paltry sting. Knees stiffen, swell, refuse to kneel in the garden, dance an English reel. Bicycle rides to Shakertown, only a memory to share when drinks come round. Hikes in the mountain, out of reach. Lucky to stroll with a cane down a beach. Just to be granted one fond wish, even a toad to be willing to kiss. Not for a face to make poets dream, but for sacrum and knees no longer to scream. From kayak to canoe to pontoon boat, grateful at least the body can float, or swim in a lake without a keel, slinky, free, an agile eel. Swimming is the best exercise as you grow older.
I would like to thank everyone for being such a lovely audience, and we've enjoyed it so much. We really do have fun together. Had fun putting the book together and fun reading from it. And we would be glad to take any kind of questions about writing or publishing or the writing line. And then afterwards, we would like to, anyone who would like to go with us. Poets are always very hungry. And so we're going to go to El Hardy's, which is what I used to call El Hardy's, El Rio Grande for supper, and we hope some people will join us. Oh yes, and we have also books. Any questions for these ladies?
How often do you gather and how do you kind of workshop each other's poetry?
We don't gather as often as we should, and I've kind of, I flew the coop, so I've not been part of the group lately, but it's a wonderful writing group when we are together, and we're really able to help each other a lot, I think, with revising, prompting, and so on. So I do miss this group when I'm away a lot.
I think one reason we came up with the idea to make the collection was that we enjoyed one another's work and had learned from it and saw a lot of potential in it, and then all the things that make it the challenge that Barbara said to weave the poems together, though, meant that we were really engaged with each other's poems, not just thinking about our own work. And the mix of voices, I found it really illuminating how reading the poem before mine and then mine, put it into a different light. So it was great to have the excuse to get together and read one another's poems and give some local criticism if there seemed to be a part of it that wasn't working so well, but then also to think about the whole and how we could create the whole out of our different pieces.
Do you find yourselves being stimulated by one another's work to experiment with your own work and go in a different direction? I noticed that just listening to what you selected to read tonight. I mean, I see the relationship, but I also see great differences in the lyric quality or the use of language. And so do you find that another's approach when you're working this closely together, when you can, prompt you to take your own writing in another direction?
I think we all tend to spend a lot of time on revision, and certainly when we work together, this sends us back to the drawing board, and I think that we do get a lot of help that way. Barbara and I also work together quite a bit, and Barbara has even worked a little bit on poetry with me in Florida, now that I'm spending more time in Florida. I think it's essential to have groups and partners and so on, at least for me, because I'm pretty fallow when I don't. I just kind of, oh well, I'll write tomorrow kind of thing. But if I have a prompt or we're working on something, then that pushes us, and I think it does take us in different directions. I think you're right.
Dorothy, I ought to know this about you, but I don't. Do you write short stories or a novel? Have you written a novel or short
No, I have written some short stories and have worked on short stories, but
Your
poetry is my
Your
area.
poetry pushes in
It's
that
a story,
direction.
it does, it does, yes. Right.
Vicky is our novelist, and she has written a really exciting novel, which is right over here. It's called Eating Justice. It's a page turner, and it's beautifully written. And if you're interested in novels, I would really highly recommend
Well,
getting a
Vicky's
copy of it.
portraits in her poems of Appalachia and the region are just exquisite.
And the first poem that Vicky read is the only one that is not a prose poem. You know, and having worked with Vicky over years, I know, and some of you know, that she previously wrote her poems with line breaks, lineated poems, and then kind of moved into the prose poem. And in fact, when we were working on the collection, and we said, you know, well, Vicky, don't you this? And she said, no, I'm not really doing poetry anymore. I just have these little prose pieces. And we looked at me and said, you are doing poetry. You know, but that for me, and in fact, the formal differences, Tina tends to have poems with shorter lines that are phrases, so that there's, you know, like beads coming down on a string, whereas Barbara's and Dorothy often tend to have longer lines, and they are more grammatically complex sentences. And, you know, hearing how that works out really gives you ideas, because you're, you know, when you're writing, you're exploring material, and there are always a lot of questions about how you do that, what perspective, what voice, you know, what form. So it's definitely stimulating. In fact, I was thinking coming over here, we need to do another collection, ladies.
Yes.
Make ourselves get
Yes,
together.
you do. I already have that one. I'm ready for another one.
A sequel.
Well, we have others
prequel.
over here, Gail, that, you know, are individual, and Gina has a number of ones she didn't bring tonight.
Yeah, I want to say, I think reading is the most inspiring thing for me personally as a writer, so reading other poems. So if you think about, if you're with these people you know, and we have seen these poems in this collection go from looking one way to looking a whole different way. So that's the second thing I love about poetry, is when you're not a baby poet and brand new and you're all like, nobody should say anything about the poetry, it becomes very playful. So I love just opening books and looking at how the poem looks on the page. And being with a group, you can see all these different styles, like Libby was saying, and it really encourages us to shake up. Like if you always write this kind of skinny poems, try throwing it all over the page for example.
Libby and Barbara and I still write in fixed forms too. I mean, we Barbara and I guess Libby in particular, we write sonnets, other things, villanelles and so on, but we're still with our fixed forms from time to time, I think. I shouldn't speak for you two, but we are more likely, the three of us.
In fact, I think we thought at one point about making a section that would have that, formal similarities with sonnets and villanelles, because it is interesting to see how those constraints, operate in different voices and these different materials. But we ended up thinking that infusing it through the different sections,
And we do have a few sonnets and so on
yes,
in here.
you do, but not as a club where you're
Right.
reading sonnet after sonnet, so, but you could look that up.
I even had a title for a little collection I was going to write, 13 Sonnets and a Vicious Villanelle.
That's good.
Well, we'll come back next year to listen to those.
Other questions?
So if you all set a certain amount of time aside each day to write, I guess an idea coming to mind, and you write down, how does it work?
I find, for me, I have writing periods and I have other periods, And I have it's almost like there are three different processes, like one is the living and experiencing things. And then, as Wordsworth would put it, there's a recollection and tranquility that comes later. And I do need that tranquility to write. I need a space of time and quiet. And then there's a time for revision. And that's a different kind of mind than the one that generates. And so when I'm in a revising mind, I can pick up an old one, and really make it better. But I might not be writing anything new. So I've always really thought of myself as an educator who writes more than as a writer. And so I give myself some slack there. And now I'm retired, so I can just write when I want to. So I think it would be good to have that discipline of writing, but I don't have it.
There's the discipline of writing that people have, and some people probably do get up every day and write and make that part of their day. But I think of my writing as kind of like if you could see a little bubble, like in a cartoon that goes over my head, and the word writing is always there, so that whatever I'm doing, it's never very far from me. And sometimes I reach up and plug that bubble, and then sometimes I don't. But I have confidence that it's there. And maybe that is part of defining yourself as a person who writes, is this is a thing that is in your life, and even if you wanted it to go away, you probably couldn't get rid of it.
Beautiful. Sometimes when some of us have gathered to write, we've tried to create time where we'll write together, so someone will throw out a first line or, a prompt, a subject, and then it's really fun, to just see what you might come up with. You have to give yourself a lot of permission to just play and discover, or sometimes to rewrite in a wholly different way, not because you're trying to fix something, but just because you want to see what would happen if you took it from another point of view or in a different voice. And I think that kind of experimentation is a really important part of writing and of working with other writers. I love being with a group in which there's an invitation to write, where that sometimes something really wonderful will start, and other times words will be kind of dead on the page, but you keep it all, because like Barbara says, at another time when you don't have a lot of fresh ideas or new prompts, you can look back at something else, and the lens through which you're then seeing it, the lived experience that you bring to that dead collection of words, they suddenly illuminate it, and you continue with it. Tina, you should mention because you really do regular writing retreats.
Yes, I do. Because I don't have any kind of regular schedule, and a lot of times, but the main thing I was going to say, I was thinking in my head exactly like what Vicky said. There's a lot of times I don't look like a writer, but that's what's happening. So like 2 winters ago, I just binge read all these history books about women and mental health. I didn't even make myself take notes. I just, because I've gotten used to that, okay, this is what I need to do right now, and I'm just now starting to use those to write new poems. I go on writing retreat twice a year, and I make that happen because that's when I set aside the chunks of time to use all of the reading and gathering and 2-minute snippets that I put in notebooks. So I go back through, and I always say, if you wanted to see my desk, I couldn't show it to you. I don't know why. If you wanted to see my practice, you would just see the little bubble. I pull it down and be like, here's the poet.
Just to add one more thing, some of you know that because you're already on my, I call it my writing list, that for about the last 4 years, I try once a month, usually on Sunday afternoons, to just open our home and yard usually, because we're lucky to have a lot of good weather around here, for people to come and use that as creative space. It's not a class or a workshop. Usually I'll ask someone to bring a short reading or an idea that you could respond to if you want, but there's no requirement, no accountability. There's just the time and space to be in silence and yet with one another in that kind of creative space. Even though I'm teaching my last class, even as we speak, I'm planning to continue those. And so if you are not yet on my list to get the notices about those, I wish you'd stop up and give me your email so that I can let you know about those.
I'd really like to thank each one of you. It makes this sort of look easy, and it is very inspiring to listen to them, but to bring these 5 people together at one time is not easy, and I appreciate all the effort that each of you have made to get here tonight, and thank you.
Thank you.